Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to PBR Monday. I got our two special guests who you all know tonight are Craig Hamilton and John Gower, number 80 and 81 of Team Coleman Stove. And and Craig, I lost you somehow. I don't know what happened, but I lost your feed as I was going live here. So go ahead and just click the link again and get back in. And when I see you there, I'll bring both of those guys in. So before I bring in our guests tonight, I want to give most of the hour to them. Let's talk about what's going on out there today because there's some cool stuff going on today on the tour. First of all, the two teams that are the farthest north, as I've said over and over, are putting on a clinic about how to do this. It's a very well considered, very good ride. It reminds me a lot of a bunch of Jim Spooners and a lot of our guests. People who really studied the route, make good decisions most of the way. In fact, all of the way for some of these guys, nailed their nav in the mystery section, things like that. But one of those teams had something go wrong today. There was a mechanical on one of those bikes. I guess it's blowing a little oil, and they ran low on fuel. Had to send somebody in to all the way up to Salmon to get some gas. Those guys are still out there, so we'll just have to see how all of that works out. I really feel for those guys. The thing that's hosing them is it means that they're going to get to Salmon tonight around 9 or 9:30, which means that tires, all that kind of stuff. It pushes it back. So there's a little bit of a snowball that started in those guys. But if anybody can recover from this, it's Team Out Where the Buses Don't Run. Two real solid riders. I noticed that the other team that was on day 4 today, your mom, they got to Salmon nice and early, and they got themselves some bonus points today too, so good on those guys. Oh, and by the way, I've heard from multiple sources, including a team that was actually there today, that the Salmon River Road, FS20, is now open from waypoint 40 all the way up to Williams Summit. So you can get from waypoint 40 to Williams Summit. You don't have to ride back down and go out Iron Creek Road anymore. And I'll brief each team as they come through on that. A little farther south, Sean Smith's watching tonight. He's at Smoky Bar Store hanging out with, I don't know if Kaylin's there tonight, but I know Margaret's there. And then we've got our guys on day 1 who are trying to cut it mighty close. It looks to me like they're just rolling into Downey. Or they were about ready to do that when I set up everything to come on the air here tonight. They can still make it now. It's possible. It's not 8 o'clock here yet. It's about 4 hours for strong riders from Lava to the flagpole. 3 if you know the trails pretty well. So we'll have to see what happens to those guys. It's still entirely possible for them to make it, but they're going to have to wick it up a little bit. Well, that's all the news there is for today. Again, the most important thing I have to announce right now is that FS40 on day 5 is now open from waypoint 40 all the way up to Williams Summit. So the original routing that we had up to Williams Summit is good. You don't have to turn around at waypoint 38 anymore and go back down to Iron Creek. It's a nice road, but several teams said it's too much of a good thing. It is quite a windy road. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in our guests tonight. Let me get these guys up here. Unmute some microphones. Here we go. There we go. We got everybody here now. So we got the whole posse here. Congratulations, Team Coleman Stove. Numbers, hold up your hand when I read your number out now. Number 80. There you go. And number 81. Rocking and rolling. So I see that John is out in the woods. I don't know John. I don't know exactly what John does, but I'm pretty sure it involves strangling grizzly bears at some level, because he seems like a pretty tough dude. Craig is a man in blue, a person after my own heart. Much respect for that. And I'm going to just turn you guys loose. The way I do it, I always ask what brought you here. Tell me about your trip last year, then tell me about your trip this year. And I'm just going to hand it over to you guys to take it away.
Oh, thank you, Martin. Yeah, I don't know how a couple years ago, I kind of stumbled across the Moto Jazz website, probably looking for a BDR route or something like that. And, it sounded like quite the undertaking. And then I don't know, little bit of time went on, and John and I grew up together and started talking about it and figured, let's give it a shot. John was in, and we both kind of jumped in and got the bug.
I think I'm the only one dumb enough to follow Craig for that far. I think I was probably the last on his list of people he asked, but I was the only one that really said yes.
No, John and I, John and I work good together. We've,
How do you guys? You said you've known each other for a long time, since childhood. Is that what I just heard?
we went to
Yeah.
school together, wrestled
Okay.
together. It's funny because wrestling, I think we both probably thought about our wrestling time in high school and stuff a lot. We had kind of an inside joke going the whole time this trip too. But yeah, last year's attempt was an eye opener, and it was crushing. I feel for the guys like Green Machine that made it deep into the tour, much further than we did, but we made it, pretty much to day 4, and it was tough. It was the
very
first,
humbling.
yeah,
And,
it was.
we definitely learned a lot for sure. So
Considering
I
how
would
much stuff
encourage-
you guys,
I
I'm
would
sorry. Go
encourage
ahead.
anybody to come back that doesn't make it this year for sure, because we definitely learned a lot that helped us for this year.
Considering the amount of stuff you guys had last year, it's actually a miracle that you got to day 4. The rest of the hose heads who sort of comprise the Torkels group and I were watching you guys, and when I described your rigs, they were all going, "Oh my gosh!" And then when we saw you guys up on Custer, we were unsure about whether or not you'd actually dropped your stuff. And I remember people were just going, "They're going to die."
Oh God, that was day 4. Completing day 4 this year was huge. That was a big monkey off our back. Last year when we got up there to the Y there, as far in the T and the trail on to take Custer Mountain or not, and we didn't know. We just thought it was a loop, and so we dropped our bags, including our water, because we figured out it's only 4 miles. And man, that trail getting up to the mountain was gnarly. Just getting down to the trail was gnarly, and then getting up there was gnarly. And we got up there. John was much better at that side hilling and that exposure than I was, and we finally made it up to the top. And I remember in the description it said you had to get your bikes up to the top for it to count. And I'm looking at the rocks, and it was like you had to be a professional trials rider, if that, to make it, get your bike up to the top. And it was bizarre. I wasn't even thinking straight. We just thought it was a loop. So we were sitting there, and we saw the trail heading out, and we thought that had to have been it. And that was the trail that went out that knife edge. And John thankfully realized, but we had probably gone a half mile. John realized that we were not going toward the next waypoint, and we had already dropped off a few rocks, and it was bad. It was bad. It was not good. And coming down all that in the dark, and I think we finally made it somewhere, not even to what's the name of the last checkpoint up there on day 4, but Ramshorn. Yeah, and we weren't even there yet. It was 1:30 in the morning, and we hadn't slept for days. Everything about it was far from ideal.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, I mean, I remember when you showed up at my house, there were 2 things that I took note of. One which was funny as hell, and the other wasn't. The funny as hell was the tie-dyed Trump jersey. I want me one of those. That is the greatest thing for pissing off people that I like to piss off I've ever seen in my life. The other thing, though, is I remember telling you guys, you boys got enough stuff there? And you guys were like really confident that you needed everything in that kit. I remember trying to say, you can leave some of this stuff here and I'll send it to you. And it was like, Nope, we're taking it all.
Yeah. We thought we were going to camp out. Oh my God. We camped out in the park over in Pocatello, and it was like we found, well, for one, the sprinklers came on, and 2,
It was
It
right
was
across
like,
the road from a railroad
oh
depot.
yeah. And then it
And
was
then
like,
the bums started coming out.
they said it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. We had all these transients coming up getting water. They said it's only fresh water for like miles around. And then we ran in, and then we heard some noises coming from the play set that probably was an encounter after
Oh yeah.
last closing. And we finally hit the trail, or last call, I should say. We finally hit the trail like 2 o'clock in the morning. But it was a series of bad decisions. But we learned a lot from that. We learned, it was very, like John said, it was very humbling.
All right. And so, more so than just about any group of individuals I've ever seen, you guys did something that was pretty remarkable over the winter. And we didn't talk a whole lot, but we had a few talks. And what had occurred to me is that you guys really understood how you needed to get from where you were to where you wanted to be. I mean, you completely rethought everything over the winter. And the few times that I was able to speak with you, it was pretty clear to me that you didn't possess this stubbornness that a lot of motorcycle riders have. Oh, well, I just need to keep doing the wrong thing harder. You guys figured some stuff out. You really lightened your rigs. You took a whole new approach to how you were going to ride it and stuff like that. And I guess, I don't know if you want to comment on that or anything, but it is a remarkable thing because I see people show up here year after year making exactly the same mistakes. They may have tweaked one little thing here or there, but basically they have the same mindset, which is the biggest problem. And you guys reformatted your mindset. What prompted you to do that?
Well, we knew we were wrong. we knew we weren't doing it right. We changed a lot of stuff, and everything we did helped us a lot. So
Yeah, we did a lot of the map studying. And I still have a hard time wrapping my brain around my hats off to the guys who are able to memorize that 2,000 plus miles of trail. There's just no way that I didn't have the capacity to do that. But I did do a lot of studying for the routes, so we would hopefully not make the same mistake up on Custer's Mountain, Custer's Lookout. Something as simple as, it's a loop, but there's an out and back within that loop, and that was detrimental to us. And something as simple as riding past a lookout, tower on day 3 as well, that hurt us time wise. And really getting that navigation nailed down. And then another thing that I think was absolutely vital for us this year, we had communications. Last year we didn't, and that would have been very, very costly to us this year if we wouldn't have had communications. Really, actually, would have been devastating up on the mountain.
Besides navigation, it was the second biggest thing that we improved for sure. I mean, the radios was huge,
and obviously way lighter. We really only brought what we truly needed, and that was an extra. For me, it was an extra pair of underwear and just a pair of underwear at night, and an extra pair of socks, and that was it. I had a shirt that I wore at night. Other than that, what I wore during the day is what I had.
Yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, yeah, you guys showed up this year and it was, again, a really lean looking rig. There wasn't anything on there that didn't need to be there. And hats off to you for having the ability to really work through that and come up with something that worked for you. Again, that's not the normal experience. There are people that have shown up to do this thing 3, 4 times. 4 right now is the highest number that haven't made it yet. And there's one team that's shown up 3 times and never has gotten up to the top of Buck Peak on day 1. And when you look at people like that, you wonder, why you had a year, you drove all the way out here from, someplace far away. What is it that did not happen in that full 365 days that you had that didn't convince you maybe the next time I want to think about this different? So you guys actually did something pretty phenomenal without even touching a motorcycle. You got your minds right. You started thinking about things the right way. So let's fast forward to this year. You guys show up this year and, you're one of the early teams out. Just go through the days, tell us what happened, and I guess you could lead by. Did you have any special trepidation, maybe because you were an early team, about maybe the amount of sawing you might have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was thought about. I think we were expecting to run into a lot of downfall, but we wanted a little more daylight than we had last year. And even though it was probably only what was it, John? Maybe 2 weeks
Yeah.
earlier that we went this
We
year.
started on the 6th this year. I think we started on the 18th last year. So yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think the weather was our biggest concern. And then just watch it, we followed Jim Spooner's progress throughout, and we're really rooting for him and really rooting for North by Northwest and those guys. And yeah, other than that, we just felt like it was our deal, and it was ours to lose. And I think we had put so much time and training and effort and money and hours out of our life. This became so consuming for me anyway, that there was no way. The only two ways we were not going to be successful and we were going to throw it in was a tow truck or an ambulance. By far, that was it. There was never a doubt in I didn't care how hard it was.
No.
And I mean, to the point where John and I were giggling as we were cuddled up in the creek that night. We were literally giggling. It was like, I told John, I was like, I feel like I'm in a cult, because I said, at what point will we tell Martin no? Because I'm willing to do absolutely anything. I mean, are we willing to ride off a cliff for an extra point? Because that's where it's at right now. I mean, I was willing to do absolutely anything. John, we both were. It was like,
Yep.
yeah, there was no hesitation on any decision about it.
Do you know how much easier it was this year? The fact that Jim Spooner and you guys were the first two people through it. I'm dead serious about this. People get mad at me all the time because they're going, "Why are you making me do this?" And I'm going, "Well, it's because you got to do it. Why? I don't want to ride down that trail." Well, you got to ride down that trail. And the fact that Jim went first solo and did all that stuff, and then you guys went and did even more than he did. Afterwards, people they gave up. Nobody's going to say a word after you two guys set the bar this year. So I owe you. The PBRs are all on me the next time we meet.
I remember saying something along the lines of, I wonder if we've suffered enough for Martin today so far.
we thought it was just like it's almost like we were talking about, like, is this like a test just to see how much we can suffer if we will ever, because we were not going to give in no matter what. And it was, to me, it was the coolest thing I've ever been a part of, along these lines.
Well, before we get into your day-by-day exploits, I want to point out to everybody that karma works, and these guys proved it. These guys proved that karma is real. I gave John the last jersey I wore when I rode my last tour of Idaho a few years ago. It was also the same jersey I wore when I went out and worked with Jimmy, but I didn't really do a tour that year. I just kind of rode along and filmed him. And that jersey has some interesting juju, because the last time I wore that jersey, I was riding across Windy Ridge in the dark and Windy Bill. Then I got lost up there, and I accidentally ended up going down the Junction Mountain Trail, the non-motorized one, the same one that you guys tried to go up, and I had to saw my way down it. It was like 30 trees with a silky saw. Now, they weren't all big, but it's in the dark, and it's harder to see the ride-arounds in the dark. So, after a while, you just go, I'm going to cut the thing, and I'd pick up my bike and huck it over some of that stuff if I couldn't ride over it. And I get to the bottom, and I'm going, I'm doomed. I'm dead. I can't go any further. And I went to the first one of those nasty little campgrounds I could find there. And I remember it was so freaking cold that night, and I cuddled up to a tree because the tree felt warmer than just the air. And then you guys are telling me this same story, and guess what jersey he's wearing?
Oh, gosh.
Craig wanted to spoon, but I told him I wasn't really into that, so we just laid back to back.
Oh, yeah.
So go through your days, talk about the things that you remember in both a good and a bad way, some things that maybe you anticipated that weren't as bad as you thought, some things that were worse than you thought, and just the things that are most memorable from your trip.
I don't know about you, Craig, but I felt like we nailed day one. The thing that sticks out most in my mind is day 4. I don't know if you know this, Martin, but I had a pretty bad crash on day 4, like in the
I
beginning
heard.
of day 4, and I banged up my right leg pretty bad, and so that's what sticks out in my mind is like it's kind of a pivotal moment for me. I knew I was going to be in pain for the rest of the trip, but I could ride, so that day stands out for me.
Where'd you crash? I knew you had to get off, but I didn't know where.
It was like 50 miles into day 4, and I was going down this rock slide, and I don't even know what grabbed my front tire, but it knocked me over on the right side like instantly, and I don't even know what I hit, but it hurt bad, and I was just glad that I could move everything, and I, got back up and went. But that's, for some reason, what really sticks out in my mind is day 4, because, day 4 for me, too, or both of us, was the day that we had to quit last year, so it's like, gosh, right off the bat, here I crashed bad, and it's like, God dang, here we go again, day 4 is. So that was a crucial day for both of us. We had to get through day 4, and then I don't know. Nothing too eventful the rest of the trip that I can remember.
Yeah, I'd say all the way up through the morning of day 5. Well, John had the wreck, but day 1, 2, 3 was epic. That was awesome, except for that damn bonus. Except for that
day 3 was a
bonus trail, Martin. We were like, so we were doing good. Day 1 in the books, and we got into your house. I was fighting the clock. We were trying to get in there right under the 5 o'clock, and which we did. And that day 1 was awesome. 2 was an epic day as well. The mystery route was a lot of fun. That kind of kept the interest in, going through the fire roads and all that kind of stuff. For me anyway. And day 3 was just a blast. I think that was
we've talked about doing day 3 with our buddies, sometime, because it was so cool.
Yeah. And then day 4, obviously that was the one when we made it to the top of Ramshorn Mountain lookout. That was, we took pictures with our arms up in the air. That was an accomplishment for us.
Wait a minute now. I want to back up just a second. I want to get back to this D3 thing, because you just tossed some shade at me.
Oh,
you
yes.
told me that I made you go down that D3 bonus.
Well,
now,
but like I said,
I'm going to tell you how it is. What did I tell you about that? I said it is available, but it is highly not recommended.
Yes, and again, we're slow learners. You said here's a trail to pick up a bonus point. It's relatively short but brutal. And I think you threw in the word Erzberg or something like that.
Yeah. Erzberg underwater.
Yeah. So we hit that. And, well, for one, the rainstorm that must have come through that southern and central Idaho must have been massive, because the amount of washout we ran across was unreal. And but we hit the top of the single track, dropping down into it. And the rain rut that was going down that trail was so big. John led the way, and John got stuck in it. We had to actually lift the front end of his bike out and got his bike out, but he was stuck. He had the back tire had no contact with the ground any longer. And but we got down that, and we got a ways, and I think we even got to that first creek. And I don't even want to say what we said, but we're like, hey, is this all Martin's got to throw at us? This isn't that bad. Oh my God. And then it just kept getting worse and worse. It was horrible. I mean, on those loaded bikes and stuff, and going through the creeks and the rocks, and John bent his rear brake pedal. And no, it was long. It was well earned. It was a point well earned. Matter of fact,
definitely well
when we
earned
lost some
point.
when we lost some points, that was, we talked about that. It was like, well, we didn't lose the point off of day 3. He can have the points off of, day 5 or whatever it was, the out and back trail. That point we'll give up. But that one on day 3, that rocky section, no, we're not giving that one up.
It's kind of funny because Jeff Jensen like stands on the side of the road and holds up the sign when people roll through Ketchum. He tries to talk everybody into doing that. Oh yeah, it'll add just a few minutes to your day. There's no worries.
Geez. We were
and those guys ride that stuff all the time, and JJ's probably got it wired. He's an excellent rider. I've done that exactly one time, and I said I ain't never going back and do it. No, I've done it twice. I rode the Old Challenge section once, then I rode down the way you guys went down. And the thing is, once you go down that initial hill, you're in. You're probably not riding back up that hill. No. And you get down to the creek and you go, yeah, I'm saved, because the trail's pretty good for a while. Then it goes up over that big side hill and drops physically down into the creek, and you're screwed from there.
Yeah. No, that was brutal. That was brutal. All
right, but I just want to establish that I told you not to do it. I just said it's available, but please don't.
Well,
because I keep getting these people that go around, they get these stories a little bit confused when they're telling them later on.
You throw those points out to us though, and we weren't going to turn anything down, so we just went for it. It was
all right. So let's start with day 4, and let's just kind of take it blow by blow from there on. Because once you got past day 4, you were in the new territory.
Yes.
Yeah. Once we got past day 4, the morning of day 5, the drama started a little bit, heading up to Twin Peaks. We were heading out of Chalice, pulling up to a gate, and my XL80 headlight went out on me.
Uh-oh.
And we had gotten an early start, so we had to go climb up Twin Peaks. And I had a moto-minded torch light, helmet light, wired into my, I had a plug in my bike too, but I plugged it in, and that was obviously all in the same wire circuit. And so I didn't have unlimited light source. I had, from then on, I did have an anti-gravity pack, and John had a jumper pack too. And then John had another battery pack. So I was running on just my helmet light, and we climbed the top of Twin Peaks, and it was kind of slow going under that light, just because there wasn't a lot of light. That was kind of the first little bit of drama, but we were able to get over it. And I think we made it to Salmon that night, and I kind of looked around my bike, and was able to find it was a short in my wiring harness of the bike, not my headlamp. So I never had enough time, enough hours in the day to work on it. So we just ran with what we had and ran off battery power, which proved to be sketchy. It was sketchy.
What did you guys think of day 5 in terms of the quality of the riding? Did you like those trails?
I did.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I just remember the long 2-track section, which was the challenge section, which seemed like forever. That's what I remember most about day 5.
So it was after that we did the challenge section, and then we dropped into that really rocky place. And for some reason we were thinking it was called Glitter Gulch, and I'm sure we're going to get hammered for not knowing the name of it. But it was up there by Iron Lake.
Yeah, Hat Creek Lakes area, and it's rocky as heck, and there's a couple of switchbacks coming out that are just awful.
Yeah, they were steep. We got to the top of that before we dropped down inside there and looked across that and just couldn't believe. And that was the first time I think the two, Martin and sadistic were going through my head, and it was nonstop. It was like, this is just sadistic. This is not right. And then we made it down those switchbacks, crossed that goalie, and then just that climb out of there was the real deal too. It was, but I mean, it's Tour Idaho, man. It was badass. It was It was cool.
I love that ridge up there. There's a scene in the Jimmy movie where he comes motoring up that, and I just saw it my way from the north to meet him. That ridge up there where you're staring down those switchbacks may be my favorite single place on the tour because it's just Idaho's the only place you'd ever be able to ride a motorcycle in a place like that and not get fussed at. It's pretty incredible that you can actually ride down through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought that was pretty cool.
All right, so you guys get the salmon, and then you're off on day 6. You guys did a really good job, by the way, in day 6. You guys and Jim Spooner figured out those reroutes pretty well. Tell us about your day 6 adventures.
So I don't want to be the one talking, John, if you want to jump in, but
Go for it. I just remember at the end of the day 6 when we missed those 2 trails. I mean, that's
so. Yeah,
I remember the day being a fun day. Really, the day was a fun day.
Yeah, and
day 6 was a fun day.
It was, and I remember thinking too. We were up there, so the morning went fine. We got back down into North Fork. Thankfully, we ordered our food for that night.
Is that the day you lost your radiator?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a whole nother.
Yeah, so
setback.
I remember thinking like, God, we're into day 6 and we've had, other than my headlight, which wasn't a major, I mean, it could have been major, but it wasn't like a whole lot of drama. We were thinking, God, things have been smooth sailing up till now. And then we started getting into the really big mountain stuff. And Jim was talking about that area up on, I think it's the Continental Divide Trail where it's what's the name of that other trail? Hedge or
well, there's Henderson Ridge. That's on day 7.
No,
are you talking about Butcher Knife Ridge?
Well, it was up on Butcher Knife Ridge, but kind of before we got to the top there, and the trail split off. I had the name of the trail in my head earlier.
I know exactly. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Hodges Ridge or whatever it was. But anyway, the trail kind of splits off to the right, and we took that. But then the trail
that's Hughes Creek. Hughes Creek, top of Hughes Creek. Yeah.
Yes. So we were on Hughes Creek, and we could see on the GPS and stuff the trail that that stayed on the ridge. But we took that Hughes Creek and it just kind of side hill a little bit, and it somewhat disappeared. And but we could see we need to be up on top of that ridge, and it's all that bear grass and stuff. So we started climbing up that hill, and I had been texting with you, Martin. So my phone was in and out of my pocket in my pants. So anyway, we were going, and I hit like a clump of bear grass and kind of looped out and fell backwards and got up. John had found the trail. And so I got up and I was trying to work my way back up to the trail. We were hopping logs and whatnot. And, hopped this one little tree and my radiator exploded. Antifreeze everywhere. And again, we're up in the middle of nowhere. And it may have happened for a reason because I looked over at John and immediately I thought, oh my God, my tour's over, and all because of a stupid stick through my radiator. And I got to look, and it was actually a branch had come through, hit the hose with my thermostat on it, and knocked that off. So I lost all my coolant, but thankfully my radiator was intact. So I looked over at John and I was like, don't drink any more water. I think John thought I was kind of...
I took one last sip.
John thought I was BSing or something. He took a sip. I'm like, no, I'm serious. No more water. Don't drink any more water. We need it all. And
I was sneaking sips while you weren't looking.
Yeah. My hands burning as I'm putting everything back together. And but there was like some bark on the, I don't know how to explain it, like where the bottom of my hose attached to, kind of on the case. There was some bark in there, and I got out as much as I could, but I was a little concerned that there was still some in there. And my bike never ran cool again after that. I was always in the 200 to 209 range, pretty much the rest of the time. So I think what happened is there's some debris in there, and it probably got stuck up in my bottom of my thermostat and just slowed my flow down enough. But anyway, it still regulated the heat somewhat. I mean, nothing seized up, and we kept
But
going. But
the thing is it was a blessing, right, Craig?
yes,
Because
yes, I,
we didn't realize where he looped out, his cell phone fell in the grass.
Oh,
So when he lost his radiator hose, we realized his phone was missing. So at that point, it was only 100 yards or so down the hill to look for the phone, and luckily found it.
and thankfully we had service. We had just a little bit of service, and John went walking, and he was of the right mind. He's like, well, I'm thinking, gosh, how am I going to do? Find my iPhone up here, and John's like, how about you just call it? And he heard it, and thanks, I mean, truly, we would have been.
We'd have been miles down the
yeah.
road if you wouldn't have knocked your radiator hose off. So
Yeah,
it was a blessing in disguise.
It was. And then we got up there, and then we went and checked out that trail on 6E,
yeah.
2A.
I asked you guys, so everybody knows. I try to find ways to give away points to people. And I asked these guys. I said, if you will check out this section of the CDT, there's some nasty switchbacks there. I understand there's some blowdown. If you guys will ride in there, get as far as you can, log hop, saw a little bit, do whatever you have to do. But if you can get to this point, I told them exactly where I wanted them to go. I'll give you a point for that. And they did. And I generally make those offers to all teams. So guys are always fussing at me about, why didn't I get any points for this? Well, the reason is you screwed that up. But I will give you points for doing this. And I accidentally really hosed you guys because that ended up being a hard point where you guys went in there to get that.
Yeah, that dropping down in there was, again, the real deal. And then we started. John is awesome at picking right around lines and whatnot, and throwing his bike around. So John would go and kind of find a route and give me a nod, and I'd follow him behind, and great teamwork on that aspect. And yeah, that one was hard earned. That one was another point that we didn't want to give up, because that one.
Sorry.
No, that was okay. It all worked out. We eventually, once we got back on track, and we still had a lot of log hopping to do to get down to the road so we could go up to Granite Mountain. But and we were out of water. We stopped at some creeks, and eventually we found right at the bottom of the road that goes off up to Granite Mountain, there was an old guy standing out in his yard, and we rolled up there. And,
that guy was cool.
Yeah, we asked him if we could get some water from him, and he gave us the best tasting, well water in Idaho, and filled us up. Just a nice guy. And we made it up to Granite Mountain, and it was after that, though, I think we were on a good track to complete the day with still up a couple more, adding a couple more points to our tally. And then we got off track at the very end, going up.
You went up Twin Creek Trail instead of Twin Creek Ridge Trail. Excuse me.
Yeah, and it started off pretty nasty.
Oh yeah.
And it was getting late, and I'm thinking I don't have much for a headlight, and so I had Custer Mountain in the back of my head, and John and I stopped because it was nasty right off the get-go. And we're like, man, we're pretty late in the day, and I've got limited headlight, and I don't want this to be a fatal decision. So we talked about it, and I sent you a message to find out how much it's going to cost us if we don't do this, these last couple trails. And we figured, it's only going to be 2 points. And then John asked, he's like, well, are we going to skip it if it's 3 points? And we're like, we kind of went back and forth, and the GPS wasn't getting out, obviously. And, there's a long delay. And eventually we made the decision.
Because I was screaming at you guys. I was fussing at you something fierce. You're on the wrong damn trail.
And I read that, but I read it back way too late, And we figured out a way to turn our bikes around because it was a sketchy trail. We just figured.
Oh, it's horrible up there.
Yeah,
that's like
really
one of the
bad.
worst.
So I do think that looking back on it, we would have figured it out. I mean, I would have looked at the GPS and been like, oh no, we're on the wrong trail. Probably would have been self-correcting. Maybe we've been able to fix it. But if
You
it
had a
was the
big
right
day.
trail, it would have been very well could have been devastating for us. And so John and I just decided, well, let's head back. We'll take the penalty, whatever it is, not knowing it would be as drastic as it was, not really realizing, okay, there's 2 checkpoints and 2 trails, and basically all those. So I'm thinking of all those hard-earned points just disappeared on us. And Martin, I was sick to my stomach. I'm not kidding. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking I will do whatever it takes, and then eventually, again, like John says, if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. And we,
So I want to bring this out again because Armadillo talks about, they're going to talk about this when they come up. You guys, at some point you had to think this guy hates me because I don't sugarcoat it for people. This is what you need to do in order to make that up. And some people take that news better than others. I'm used to people fussing at me, but I got to admit, you guys took the news really well because I'm scared of, especially John. I'm afraid I'm going to wake up one night. He's going to be standing over me, throttling me or
yeah,
something. But you guys actually took the news really well when I told you what happened. I think we had a conversation about how you can make this up. Your tour's not done. There's ways to do it. But it would take like into the middle of day 8 for you to figure out how dire that would be.
yeah. No, you told us what we had to do, and it would involve some hiking. And again, your route description for what was that? That was the next day, right? That was day 7.
Yeah, day 7.
The route description of the relatively easy 1.2 mile trek. And we got to talking.
We're not mountain climbers, Martin.
Yeah, you're a mountain climber, and we're like, oh, it's all relative. And
it says relatively easy. What are you talking about? I described it accurately.
Yeah, I know, but we were thinking again. We didn't want to give up the time because I think we feared I think we did it in what do we fear? It's just over an hour, maybe it took us.
Yeah, I know it took us like 32 minutes to get from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, so we were trucking. We were not like just on a leisurely walk. It was like, again, like John said before, this was a business trip, and we were there to do business. We were going, and of course, even John mentioned it before we started. He goes, I bet we're going to be there right in the height, the height of the sun and the hottest part of the day. And it was brutal. We had to find shade, a couple times going up, but we knocked it out and then realized, God, we just did that. And it's like 9,000 feet of elevation. But yeah, it was good.
Was there anybody out at the lookout when you got out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's guy liked to talk a lot. I mean,
old guy named Bill.
He was telling me.
Well, Bill walked out there. What are you two youngsters talking about?
Yeah, he said it took him an hour and a half to get up there.
Yeah, he was impressed by us, Martin. Come on. That's why we took the picture. It was like, as soon as we get up there, we're going to take a picture of us in our misery, So we took the picture and made that post that John always says, if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. And we figured, well, we paid for that one, that was well earned. So we screwed up. And so we felt like we had to make
the thing is, it's the beginning of day 7. We went into day 7 thinking it's not going to be that hard because we rode all that single track out of North Fork. We rode it, 3-4 weeks ago. It was all blowed over, but we'd heard it had been sawed. So we thought it was going to be
it's never sawed
morning. I think it took us 4 hours to make it through that, and it was a lot longer than we thought it was going to take.
Yeah,
I've done that section a dozen times, even late in the year, and I've never gotten across there without pulling out saw.
Yeah, no, that was a brutal stretch.
Yeah,
it was.
The other thing about day 7 is people look at it and they go, well, how hard can it be? I mean, it's 100 miles of Jeep road. That Jeep road is not particularly simple Jeep road, especially once you make the turn and start up towards Salmon Mountain, there's rocks the size of Volkswagen Beetles all over that road. And it beats you up after a while. I mean, if you're trying to jam going across that road, you're going to pay.
Yeah, it was
Oh yeah,
brutal. And long way.
You could easily catch a rut or a rock and, crash easily.
So you guys get into Lowell. You got in Elk City, a reasonably good time. You did not make a mistake of taking the Fire Swamp way. Something else, by the way, I'll tell everybody not to do. Even people as esteemed as Michael Knight ignore me on that. But you guys managed to get in and out, and you get yourselves to Lowell. And I forget exactly what time you got to Lowell, but it strikes me as you got there at a pretty reasonable time of day.
I think it was around 10 o'clock, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay,
I got you mixed up with another team then. So what was it that delayed you getting into Lowell then?
Nothing. Well, we got to Elk City, grabbed fuel, and we knew that we were going to be getting. Well, we knew we still had another 4 hours, and we talked to some deputies there, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to get to Anderson Butte, and then we ran into. They kind of directed us. It was one of the routes. I think it was the G route, and then on up to H. We ran into some guys on some side by sides, and they directed us up that same route. And that for us, that was by far better than doing the out and back that same route on that 2-track. But that 2-track was a long. That was just long. I don't know what delayed us other than the hike.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember any major setbacks.
And we weren't putting along.
No, it's just a long day.
Yeah,
if you do take that hike, it's 90 minutes maybe out of your day that you didn't advance yourself an inch. And when you get to Elk City, it's hard not to stop there for a little while. I mean, I haven't ever seen anybody be in and out of Elk City in 15 minutes.
Well, it was busy too. It was like Elk City days or something, and so we had to wait. We had to wait at the gas pump for 15 minutes or whatever, just to wait in line to get some gas, and just
wow.
It was busy.
There was busy.
People running around on side by sides, and there was party going on.
Yeah,
I wanted to stay actually.
The rules say you can stay in Elk City if you want to. That's what Green Machine did.
I could have snuggled right into that town that night, but we had business to take care of.
All right, so you guys get over to Lowell. You get yourselves a good night's sleep. You got up. You get a good early start. I'm sure you guys have ridden that Peak King Ridge or Peak King Creek Trail before. It's like an unpleasant surprise first thing in the morning. Yep. And that gets you up to Waldy. And then you go out, you do Fish Butte. There's a challenge point out there. You ride down that Fish Butte Trail, which is a little bit exciting. Then you get to the bottom and you ride up that nasty Fish Creek Trail. And I don't care what Jimmy Lewis says, that trail sucks.
Dude, that thing, for one, we couldn't figure – well, I don't mean to jump in here, John, but, we were – well, the reroute really sucked because we were really hoping for Sherman Creek. And then after riding that Fish Creek Trail, my God, I don't know why anybody would choose that Fish Creek Trail and Ant Hill over Sherman Creek. We could not figure that out for the life of us.
Because all you're going to do is work hard going up that trail. You ain't going to die. And if you're a soloist, that's a consideration. You get up on Sherman Creek, there's a couple places up there where if you decide unwisely, just to go for it, it pops you off that rider's left there, and you could take quite a tumble.
Oh, yeah.
But so at least on the Fish Creek Trail, when I get to Ant Hill, I just pull out my rescue kit. I don't even try to push up those switchbacks.
Man, that was Ant Hill was a pain, and then with my bike overheating, it didn't help anything at all. I think I ended up upside down at one point.
Craig was worried about his bike for sure. It was definitely on top of his mind, that heating issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually got up Ant Hill pretty quick. I was impressed. And then you get going and you get up to Pete Forks, and all of a sudden that Pete Forks is kind of a lonely place in the first place. And this year especially, you figure out, well, instead of going down to Lolo Motorway, where I know I'm bound to see at least 100 people on KLR 650s with metal panniers and steaks and beer and stuff, I'm about to take a dirt road that goes to exactly the middle of nowhere, which is Wietis Guard Station. So tell me about your trip out across Beaver Dam Saddle and down to Wietis.
Well, we got to that intersection. It was like a 5-way intersection, and we spent a little while there just trying to figure out, for one, which route to take, whether it's like, I think it was the 103, the 104 to the
Yeah.
555. Just trying to figure out, okay, which one should we end up taking? And that we did spend some time there just trying to figure out the navigation portion of it. But I think we made the right decision, and
You did?
we end up right at the Wietis guard station, and yeah, that was cool. John really liked the bench that was there. That was
The
the
Ridge Runners bench.
so it was, yeah. So that was all cool. That was pretty straightforward. From there, we went north.
I just remember being concerned about fuel.
Yeah,
I mean, fuel was a concern for me for sure at that point because, well, one of my giant loop bags was leaking, so I couldn't even put fuel in one of my bags. So
yeah. We each had a bag.
That was a problem. And then luckily we found it. We ended up finding some really cool guys camping along that river.
Kelly Ford.
They had dirt bikes and they had some 4-wheelers or something, and I tried to buy it. They wouldn't take my money. But they were able to fill up my tank. That was super cool.
We were low on fuel and water, and when we pulled in there, just like everyone says,
they loaded us up with gas and Gatorade and everything.
Yeah, it was awesome, and then we were off for Windy Ridge from the north. And I don't know, I think the trailhead said, well, and even on Onyx, I think it said it was like 13 plus mile trail up to Windy Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And we rode, and it's not the trail was overgrown too. So it wasn't necessarily a walk in the park to ride that.
I feel like we were making good time, and I thought we were doing good until we got to all that blowdown, I feel like I felt like we were pretty close to Windy Bill too when we had to turn around.
You were up there way up on Cook Mountain when you sent me that message. And by the way, you guys and Jim Spooner are the only two people I completely trust when you tell me there's a lot of blowdown here. Because a lot of blowdown means different things to different people. To some people, a lot of blowdown means there is a stick about the size of my ankle laying across the trail. To you guys, I'm pretty sure it means 500 trees or something. So you turned around, you went back down, and I said, try the Junction Mountain motorized trail, and then things went awry.
Yeah.
It actually was a pretty good trail for the first 10 miles.
It was 3 miles because I paid.
Yeah, but you guys weren't on the Junction Mountain motorized trail. You know that, right? Don't you?
No, it was the most pristine, raked out, mowed trail. And we just came from one that was super overgrown to one that was all mowed. Everything was nice. I actually told John, I was like, God, I feel bad for riding on that. And then come to find out, it wasn't even. We're not supposed to be.
I didn't feel bad at all.
I felt bad because I could picture the guy out there raking this thing, and we're riding over the water bars, and but that trail was clear though. I mean, it was no longer maintained after 3 miles, but but we only had a couple things to work our way over, and then it teed into Junction Mountain Trail again, the one that we should have been on.
Right.
Once we got onto that and hung a left, there was evidence that somebody had been there, but there was some stuff that had been sawn, but there's also a lot of stuff that was just blown down, and we, John did an amazing job of some ride arounds, and we worked and finally got to the point where, I mean, we discussed it, and we knew we were close, but we walked up further, and there was literally no way of doing it without a chainsaw.
No, without a chainsaw. Yeah. I mean,
And once again, after in retrospect, you probably realize you missed the proper cutoff that goes up to Windy Bill. There's like 3 or 4 trails grow in places like that where it's a little hard to find your way. There's 1, then there's 3. And you guys took the one that goes really steeply, and you actually you could have thrown a rock from where you were to Windy Bill Trail. But there's a cutoff farther back down, like 800 feet back down the trail. And if you take that one, it's a lot easier way to get up there. But at that point, I felt so bad for you guys because it was dark. Dude, it was pitch freaking dark when you guys turned around.
And Steve,
that's when your battery went down on your
yeah.
headlamp,
See, that's
too,
the problem.
coming off of that.
Is we only had limited battery. I only had because I used my headlight that morning, and then I had it that night, and I was using one of our batteries, but so I threw my headlamp on, and John was out. John was leading, and we were going down the side. We were side hilling down this, and we had run over piles of bear crap that were this big, and huckleberry heaven, and it was black. I mean, it couldn't have been darker. And all I had was my headlamp. And John was about a half mile ahead of me. And I was on a side hill. And actually, John radioed ahead and said, "Hey, there's a tight right-hand switchback coming up. Just be careful." And I made it around that. And soon as I start going again, my headlight went out. But it went out like this. It didn't dim. When it went out, it went out. So it went from light to complete darkness, and immediately I just threw my bike over to the uphill side, and thank God for those radios, because John probably would have gone to the bottom of the mountain and realized I wasn't coming down, and I was able to get him stopped, and we swapped batteries and made it down. But that was sketchy.
So you guys go down, stay at the campground that night. You managed to avoid the temptation to spoon. And you get up the next day, and all you got to do is day 9 now. So you rode into Superior that morning, and I was amazed that you spent as little time as you did in Superior. So you get in there, you get fueled up, go up to St. Regis, go to Saltese, and then you rascals actually, I couldn't believe that you took me up on it. Or no, maybe you didn't. It might have been Armadillo that did it, but I told you that there was like a bonus section up there for you to do, and I don't think you guys did it, but I think Armadillo did. But you got up on the State Line Road, rode out. Did you guys do Stevens Peak?
We did. We did Stevens Peak, dropped down, and then in the description.
Yeah, and you were the ones that took 16A, right?
Well, so we were on 16A off of Stevens Peak, and but then it said like D998, right? It said right before D998, there's a trail, and things didn't add up. Because it said you had mentioned something like there's a 20-mile loop and all this, and we're thinking, I remember looking at that going, well, God, this one drops us off right into Wallace, it looks like, because we're right above Wallace, but we dropped off, and it was steep, and immediately everything was overgrown, and I just remember thinking, you got to be kidding me, we got to jump over more of this stuff, and then thankfully the beacon was working, and you set us straight. And we got back on the right trail and did that loop.
Your waypoints were numbered different from my waypoints, which is why we had to talk a little bit back and forth. But yeah, you finally found your way back down. Then the only thing I was doing was I was actually doing this, and I don't go to church. I was going, I hope to God this route that Jim Spooner and Andrew Hickson came up with is okay. Because if it's not, those guys are going to turn those motorcycles around, come back and kick my ass.
Well, I'll be honest with you. My bike was hot, and I was concerned about that. And it was single track after single track, and not just like, oh, it's easy. I mean, it was the real deal, side hill exposure, and the climbs were enormous. I saw 275 degrees on my Trail Tech.
Holy cow!
Actually, I saw 274, I should say. And the only thing I could do, because there's one trail called Bad Tom, and it climbs for miles, I think. I mean, straight up the mountain, and some tight switchbacks. It's the real deal. And I just remember thinking, if I didn't have this stupid Trail Tech on my bike, I wouldn't know what the temperatures were. So I'll just keep twisting that throttle. And, the Husqvarna held out, and shoot, we made it. But those trails are they're awesome. They're fun, but you know, there's a lot that can go wrong with, you know, right before Wallace right there too. So it was I don't know. It was fun. I mean, we're probably going to go there next
They,
Sunday and
yeah,
go.
we're thinking about going there. It was
Yeah.
fun. Just, it was really fun, but at the time, I don't think we were really in the mood, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially thinking we were a half hour from Wallace and then
Yeah.
have to turn around from the wrong trail. And it's just like, you got to be kidding me. Another single track. Hey, John, this one's only 6.6 miles long. All right, let's do it, you know?
So Jim Spooner lives pretty close to you guys. When I come up, we'll all have to get together and confabulate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the shame of it is the trails that those trails replace are not simple trails. There's some side hill adventures and some exposure and some big climbs on the trails that have missed too. I think Jim and Andrew did a great job for us of kind of replacing
Absolutely. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you missed with some good stuff. But yeah, it is weird. You know, the reason that I'd never really thought about much of that stuff before I met those guys was because you're so close to Wallace. And at that point, I feel like it kind of ought to be over, but it's not this year because right outside of Wallace, you could probably throw a rock up over that ridge and then land in downtown Wallace, and you spend several hours back in there on some stuff that if it's like the rest of the stuff I've ridden in that area, it's the real deal.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
The psychological mind twist on it, you know, thinking, all right, we're going to be we were actually talking about that. We're going to be in early, we're going to enjoy an evening and some beers. And then it just turned into fighting the sun for me. You know, it was just, we were just trying to get in before the sun went down.
All right, so you guys get into Wallace. Donna's there. She's always got a little spread fixed up, team name and everything on it.
Yeah.
And that's
She's amazing.
I like to get guys
What a
in there
sweetheart.
early because it's really cool for you to be able to spend time in Wallace, which I think is a wonderful place. Donna's a wonderful person. You get up the next day, and I don't know if were you guys able to follow my reroute, or did they have all those roads closed by then?
They didn't have so initially we were heading out Beaver Creek, and that night the fire had blown up. So
Okay.
they had a U.S. Forest Service agent there, and she had the road blocked off. And I looked at her, I'm like, "Come on, can you just let us through?" she's like, she was pretty serious. She's like, "No, you got to go over to." So we had to go right over to Mullen. I think it was Mullen, and then back and I mean, the fire was pretty serious, and it had blown up big. So, but we were able to make it around. We stopped and talked to some fire guys and worked on a little reroute with you and the fire guys, and got back on the normal route, and it was smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, you guys, I think you'd been beaten enough at that point that you didn't need to do Independence Creek. So I think I just told you to get to Hoodoo Mountain and get to Sundance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it was great seeing you guys up there, you know, the smile on your faces. And again, I tell everybody, there's no two tours of Idaho that are alike. And if you get the number of points that are needed, you know, you get your jersey number and that's that. And most people have had some big adventures, but you guys had one of the best tours of Idaho ever because it doesn't get any better than you have to, you know, you ride down trails that don't go anywhere. You have to turn around and go back, having to sleep on the ground. At the time, you're thinking, this sucks. But you guys get to live with this the rest of your lives. You get to think about this and think about the fact that things that did not stop you would have stopped the next 100,000 people that tried it. Good for you.
You know, it was fun though, even though it was miserable, and we were laughing as we were back to back for the body heat on the ground. But
back to back. First you said no spooning. Now I'm hearing back to back. I'm not so sure that
back to back's not spooning.
Yeah,
but at first it sounded like that you were staying as far away from that as you can. And I'm starting to say this separation is getting narrower.
That was till about 2 a.m. when we were both shivering, and we are like, maybe we could just go back to back for a little bit.
Yeah, it was those space blankets. I've never used a space blanket.
I knew Craig was awake because all I could hear was that space blanket crinkling every couple minutes. I knew he was awake. I was like, dude, maybe we should try going back to back for a little bit.
In an odd way though, as miserable as it was also one of those things. It was like, God, how often do you do this? I mean, it's one night. It was,
Yeah.
it was miserable, but it was fun too. And then we got up to Scurvy Mountain Lookout, and
Yeah.
so
Like
remember I had
super
asked
nice
you,
caught.
Oh, yeah. I
because I
remember that
asked you,
story. That's awesome. Tell
I
that
asked,
story.
I asked you about like I
I
said,
told
hey,
Craig, I was like, I bet you anything we get up there and it's going to be nice. Like we could have just rode up here and slept. And sure enough, there's a damn cot and a wood stove in this place.
oh, everything was clean. It was nice, and oh, we would have been fat
Oh,
and
yeah.
happy, and oh yeah, it was.
Yeah. But then we wouldn't be telling the story.
Yeah, it was.
That's it. You got great stories to tell.
Yep.
And you said something a while ago that I think is important because I say this to people all the time. Look, it's one night of your life. So what? You're sleeping on the ground. So
Yep.
what? A bear may come by. Throw a damn rock. Throw the rock at the damn thing. 90% of the time they run away. It's one night of your life. Just get through it whatever way you can, and you're going to be happy you did the next day.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's where we just it was miserable, but it wasn't like hell. I mean, it was kind of a fun. I mean, again, how often do you actually use one of those stupid space blankets? You know, I mean, I don't even know if the damn thing worked, but
Did you have it the right way?
oh,
Did you
I
have
have
the
no idea.
reflective side in, or did you have it out like a doofus?
I don't know. Probably, I have no idea. I mean, it was wrapped up, and it's about all I knew. And John's back was next to me, and yeah. But we came off that mountain though. When we came off that mountain, and we were looking for water, and we saw some people camping at the trailhead there, and we turned in, and they kind of came up, and met us, and John didn't see because he was behind me a little bit, but there was a dude, and he was loading a shotgun, and he was loading it for us, and he was just kind of standing behind the truck the whole time, and the other guy was talkative and very nice, and they gave us water, and then he started talking a little bit. I remember thinking in my head, well, I've got a gun and John's got a gun, but this guy's got a shotgun, and we have no idea who the hell he is. And it's not like we were a couple of dirtbags pulling up into, I mean, we were on a mission for something, and he didn't ever let go of that darn shotgun, and he lightened up a little bit. But it was, again, it was one of those moments like we're in the middle of nowhere, and this guy's loading his shotgun. Maybe it's rightfully so. I don't know, but it just kind of added to the story and the whole night.
I tell people anymore, I don't pack for bear. I pack for people.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's an awesome story. I could not be happier for the success that you two guys have. You sure as hell earned it. It's a tour of Idaho for the ages. It's one of these great stories. You guys will be able to tell this story to your grandkids, and they're going to tell it to their grandkids. It's really an epic adventure that you guys had. And man, good on you. You earned every single bit of it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I truly, and again, this is something John and I talked about. We were just amazed at how you put this whole thing together, tied all the trails together, the mystery route. I can't imagine the hours that went into that. And, you get nothing for it. And I could not be more thankful for the self accomplishment for John and I to complete this. So thank you.
I get quite a bit for this. I get to know guys like you. That's what's in it for me. It's look, life's short and you're dead a long time, right? And it's the people that you meet along the way that make life special. And absolutely the best people I know I've met through this and some of the climbing stuff that I did. Same kind of people, they're having fun no matter how gnarly it gets. They're having fun. And that's the key element to this. It's a motorcycle ride in the wilderness, and you got to have some stick-to-itiveness. You got to really want to do it to suffer through it. But in the end, it's supposed to, at some level, put a smile on your face, and it's clear to me that you guys completely got that. You're laughing when things are really going bad.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. But don't ever say I don't get anything out of this. I don't get any money out of it, but I sure do get something out of it. And what I get out of it is meeting guys like you. And if you don't get down here before I get up there, I'm going to go up and see Jim and Andrew, and we'll all get together. And even if we don't get to ride together, I'm not so sure I want to go out in the woods with any of you guys because I think there's some punishment coming. But we'll be sure drinking some beers up there somewhere, and that is going to happen sometime in the next month or so. So I'll let you guys know.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have a couple of these splendid T-shirts. Hold on just a second. These are what guests on this show get this year, and I don't imagine you guys will have any trouble wearing a fine-looking T-shirt like this. So if
Nice.
you guys will just send me your addresses
Okay.
and your preferred size of shirt, I'll get those in the mail to you tomorrow. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure getting to know you guys, and we're not going anywhere. We'll get to know each other better as time gets along. Thanks again.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
us
take
on.
care, fellas. All right, so there you go. Another PBR Monday in the books. Once again, as far as spending your time with me, that was a waste, but it certainly wasn't a waste spending your time with those guys. Just a great tour of Idaho story. And again, don't take it personal when I'm saying, no, you got to do this. I tell that to everybody. And it's the idea is just to make sure that we sort of level the playing field a little bit. And I know that sometimes in the heat of it, you don't see it that way. You go, well, why is he making me do this when these other guys, he didn't make these other guys do this? Because they're all different. You know, I may have asked another team to go do something which they did for me, which you didn't notice. But and this year it's especially challenging because I'm always suggesting things that you can do to make up for the stuff we lost. And in a year where there's not a lot of fires, it's a lot more cut and dried. All you got to do is this, in this order, and it works easy. This year is a more adventurous year. I have loved this year so far. This has been one of my favorite years because the adventure level is way high. There ain't nobody squeaking through this year. It's difficult for everybody. And the teams that I've met so far are, I mean, you guys are just awesome. It's been a pleasure meeting everybody so far this year. All right, so that's it. I'm going to get offline here and check and see how Head East is doing. I hope they're not heading south because they're not heading north very fast, but we'll see how all that goes. Daily brief again tomorrow. We got a team starting out tomorrow. Team from back east, look like some pretty capable guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. In the meantime, I'll let you know there may not be a PBR Monday next week because I think I'm going to try to sneak away with my family and do a little late summer trip. So if we can put that together, I might not be here on Monday, but I'll let everybody know well in advance if that's going to be. Thanks again to our guests. Thank all of you for watching, and I'll be seeing you. Cheers.